The rain fell in thick sheets, drumming hard against the metal roof of the small outpost. The sky was a dull, angry gray, and every gust of wind rattled the walls. Alex sat near the window, watching the storm rage outside. The planet had always been unpredictable, but today it seemed almost alive, as if it were testing the limits of anyone who dared to stay. He rubbed his temples and stared at the empty field in front of the outpost. There was nothing out there. Nothing, except the endless rain. A sudden movement caught his eye. At first he thought it was just the storm, the wind making shadows dance across the landscape. But then, slowly, he saw a figure struggling through the sheets of rain. The figure staggered, arms stretched forward as if searching for shelter, and Alex's heart skipped a beat. He could not recognize who it was at first. Even through the sheets of water, there was something familiar in the posture, the way the figure moved, the desperate energy in each step. He leapt to his feet and opened the door. The cold wind and rain immediately hit him, and his jacket soaked through almost instantly. The figure stopped and looked up. The face was partially hidden under a wet hood, hair plastered against her forehead. And then recognition struck him like a bolt of lightning. Lyra. Months ago, he had met her during the failed diplomatic mission to the neighboring system. Her species had been cautious, almost suspicious of humans, but she had risked everything to save his team when the alien faction had ambushed them. Her strength, intelligence, and calm in the face of danger had left a lasting impression. Yet now, seeing her drenched and trembling in the rain, Alex realized she was more vulnerable than he had ever seen her. "Lyra," he called, running toward her. She barely responded, her eyes fixed on the outpost, and she continued moving forward as if drawn by some invisible force. When he finally reached her, he grasped her shoulders, steadying her against the gusts of wind. "What are you doing here?" he shouted over the storm. "Why are you back?" she blinked, rain dripping from her hair and down her face. Her eyes were wide, almost haunted, but they held determination. "I had to come," she said, voice hoarse and low. "There's something coming you need to know." Alex frowned. "Slow down. Tell me later. Let's get you inside first." He pulled her into the outpost, shutting the door against the screaming wind. Inside, the warmth of the room and the smell of wet metal and earth enveloped them. He guided her to a chair near the heater, grabbing a dry blanket. Lyra sank into the chair, shivering. Alex wrapped the blanket around her shoulders. "Drink this," he said, handing her a cup of hot liquid. Steam rose into the air, mingling with the damp smell of rain. She accepted it silently, and for a moment they just sat. The storm outside seemed to fill the room, loud and relentless, while inside there was only the quiet, tense pause between them. "I didn't think I would see you again," Alex said finally, trying to keep his voice calm. "After the mission, everything went wrong." "I thought," he stopped, unsure of how to finish the thought. Lyra looked up at him, her expression was hard to read. "I didn't have a choice," she said softly. "There are things coming, things you would not believe. I needed to warn you." Alex studied her carefully. She had always been honest, even when telling half-truths. Her determination was not something to be questioned lightly. And yet, why come all this way, through a storm like this, and not tell him the full story? Something was being kept, and his instincts told him it was serious. "Okay," he said finally. "We'll talk about it, but you're not going anywhere until the storm stops. You can't survive out there in this weather." Lyra nodded slowly, but her gaze remained distant, fixed on something beyond the outpost. Alex noticed her skin was wet in strange patterns, not just from the rain. There was a faint glow along her arms and neck, subtle but noticeable. He remembered seeing it before, back on the mission. Her species had a natural reaction to extreme stress or danger, something that humans could not understand. The storm raged on, hours passing as the rain hammered against the roof. They did not talk much, mostly listening to the wind and the soft patter of water. Occasionally, Lyra would mutter something in her language, almost under her breath. Alex tried to catch the words, but they made no sense to him. He realized she was thinking, planning, assessing something that he could not see. Night fell, and the darkness made the outpost feel even smaller, more vulnerable. Alex paced the room, glancing at the sensors that monitored the perimeter. All clear, nothing moving. But his gut told him otherwise. Something was coming, something beyond the storm, something beyond anything they had faced before. Lyra stood suddenly, startling him. "We need to prepare," she said. Her voice was stronger now, commanding, and Alex realized she was already thinking about strategy, even in her soaked and exhausted state. "Prepare for what?" Alex asked. "The storm," Lyra shook her head. "Not the storm, something else. I've tracked it for weeks. It is coming here, we need to be ready." Alex's mind raced. He had faced hostile factions, rogue AIs, and wild planets before. He had survived impossible missions. But there was a tension in Lyra's words that he could not ignore. This was not just a warning. This was a call to action. They worked together, reinforcing the outpost, checking the equipment, and setting up basic defenses. Alex realized that despite her alien abilities, Lyra trusted him to make decisions, to lead when needed. That was rare, and it made him feel both honored and burdened. They moved in silence, the storm outside continuing to rage, each task bringing them closer, a silent acknowledgement of the trust forming between them. Hours passed, and the storm finally began to weaken. Rain slowed to a drizzle, and the wind softened. Alex and Lyra sat together, exhausted, leaning against the wall of the outpost. For the first time, they allowed themselves a moment of relief. "Why now?" Alex asked quietly. "Why come back through all of that just to warn me?" Lyra looked at him, her eyes reflective, almost sad. "Because you are human," she said. "Because you see things differently, you survive differently, and because I trust you to make the choices that could save everyone." Alex felt a mix of pride and responsibility, knowing the words carried weight. He had always believed humans were resilient, capable of facing impossible odds, but hearing it from her, from someone who had seen countless species and civilizations, gave it a new meaning. Humans were underestimated, yes, but they had something that could never be calculated: heart, courage, and ingenuity. The night wore on, and Alex knew that sleep would not come easily. He glanced at Lyra, who had fallen asleep in her chair, still wrapped in the blanket. She looked peaceful, but he knew it was only temporary. The threat she had spoken of was real, and soon they would both have to face it together. He allowed himself one last look outside. The rain had stopped completely now, leaving the ground wet and reflective under the dim light of the planet's twin moons. The outpost looked small and fragile, but it was all they had. And soon, it would be the front line. Alex sat down beside Lyra, silently vowing to protect her and the outpost. Whatever was coming, he would meet it head-on, because that was what humans did. They adapted, they survived, they fought, and they never gave up, even when the odds were impossible. And as the first signs of dawn appeared on the horizon, Alex realized that the storm outside was nothing compared to the storm that was coming for them both, and that together, they might just have a chance to face it. The morning sun broke through the clouds, scattering golden light across the wet fields outside the outpost. The storm had passed, leaving a silence that felt both peaceful and tense. Alex moved quietly, careful not to wake Lyra, who still sat slumped in the chair, her breathing steady but shallow. She looked smaller than usual, exhausted from the journey through the storm, but there was a quiet strength in her presence that made Alex feel both reassured and uneasy. He brewed a cup of hot tea for himself and sat near the window, watching the horizon. The fields shimmered under the early light, but there was a subtle unease in the air. His sensors had detected nothing unusual, yet his instincts told him the calm was only temporary. The warning in Lyra's words lingered in his mind. Something was coming, and it would not be gentle. When Lyra finally stirred, blinking her luminous eyes against the sunlight, Alex offered her a cup of warm liquid. She took it silently, her gaze drifting to the horizon. "We need to move soon," she said, voice low but firm. "The outpost is safe for now, but it won't hold if what I tracked finds us here." Alex frowned. "Track what? What exactly is coming?" She hesitated, her fingers brushing the edge of the cup. "I can't explain everything yet. Not here, too many risks. But it's not just a single enemy, it's a force. Advanced, organized, and relentless. They won't stop until they get what they want." Alex's jaw tightened. He had faced hostile factions before, rogue mercenaries and alien hunters, but the tone in Lyra's voice told him this threat was unlike anything he had encountered. "Then we prepare," he said, determination settling in his chest. "We can't just wait for them to arrive." Lyra nodded, a faint glow tracing along her arms as she moved. "I will help you, but your methods, your human approach, it will be different from mine. That is why I came. You see possibilities that I do not." Alex glanced at her, feeling a mix of admiration and curiosity. Humans had always been underestimated, but it was true. They had a way of adapting, of seeing solutions where others saw none. He would use that strength now, and with Lyra's help, they might just stand a chance. They spent the morning reinforcing the outpost, repairing sensors, and setting traps around the perimeter. Alex was meticulous, checking every angle, every weak point. Lyra offered guidance, showing him where her species' sensors could detect energy signatures humans could not. Their combined efforts were silent but effective. Each movement carried a weight of urgency, a sense that failure was not an option. By midday, the sun was high and the air had warmed. Alex noticed Lyra standing near the main door, her gaze fixed on the distant horizon. "Do you remember the last mission?" he asked, trying to distract her. "When we were ambushed." Her eyes flicked to him, a faint memory passing across her face. "I do. You improvised then. You saved lives when others would have panicked. That is why I trust you." Alex felt a surge of pride but also pressure. Trust from someone like Lyra was rare, and it came with responsibility. He could not fail. Suddenly, the sensors beeped. A small blip appeared on the screen, a probe, moving toward the outpost at high speed. Alex grabbed the console, narrowing his eyes. "We have company," he said. Lyra's posture shifted instantly, alert and ready. "They are scouts, not the main force yet, but they are testing." Alex nodded, his mind racing. "Then we prepare traps. We lure them close, then strike." Humans have always been good at turning weakness into strength. Together, they worked quickly, setting up improvised defenses using the environment and what little tech the outpost had. Alex rigged electric nets and hidden turrets, while Lyra placed alien sensors to detect any energy-based threats. Time moved quickly, every second filled with tension. When the first scouts arrived, they moved cautiously, probing the perimeter. Alex watched from the control room, his heart racing. The drones were sleek, efficient, and dangerous, but predictable in their patterns. He directed the turrets, timing each shot to disable one scout at a time without triggering an alarm for the rest. Lyra's sensors hummed softly, giving him real-time updates. The first clash was intense but brief. Alex and Lyra worked seamlessly, their combined strategies keeping them alive. When the last scout fell, the two of them stood silently, catching their breath. Alex looked at Lyra, who gave him a rare, approving nod. "You are learning fast," she said. He smiled faintly. "Humans survive, we adapt." Lyra's expression softened for a moment. "Yes, that is why I came back." The next hours were filled with preparation and discussion. Lyra revealed more about the approaching threat, an alien force seeking rare knowledge hidden in her species, and indirectly, in anyone who aided them. Alex listened carefully, taking mental notes, planning their next moves. The danger was real, but so was their determination to survive. As night approached, the first signs of the main force appeared on the horizon. A faint glow, a pulse of energy moving toward the outpost. Alex checked the sensors again. This time it was bigger, hundreds of units, faster and more organized than the scouts. Lyra's eyes narrowed. This is it. They have found us. We need to leave the outpost and engage on our terms. Alex felt a chill, but also a surge of resolve. Then we fight smart. We use the terrain, we use traps, we use everything we have. They may be advanced, but humans have something they cannot predict. Lyra tilted her head. Yes, creativity, courage, unpredictability. Together, they left the safety of the outpost, moving toward a nearby ridge that overlooked the valley. Alex had studied the terrain and knew it would give them a strategic advantage. They set up defensive positions, laying traps and using natural cover to their benefit. Every step was calculated, every movement purposeful. When the alien force arrived, the valley erupted in energy and motion. Drones and vehicles advanced, scanning for life, but Alex and Lyra had positioned themselves perfectly. Using a combination of human improvisation and Lyra's alien technology, they turned the valley into a deadly maze. Mines detonated in precise sequences, energy nets immobilized the first wave, and carefully timed counterattacks disrupted the enemy's formation. Amid the chaos, Alex realized the battle was more than physical. It was a test of ingenuity, trust, and resilience. He coordinated with Lyra, signaling movements and anticipating enemy reactions. Together, they became a seamless unit, human strategy enhanced by alien insight. Hours passed and the enemy began to retreat, unable to adapt to the unpredictable traps and tactics. Alex and Lyra stood on the ridge, surveying the aftermath. The valley was scarred, but they had survived. Lyra's gaze met his, and for a moment there was relief, but also understanding. This was only a small part of what is coming, she said. The main threat is still moving. We cannot stay here long. Alex nodded. He felt the weight of the responsibility, but also the strength within him. Humans could endure, adapt, and outthink even the most advanced adversaries. And with Lyra by his side, he felt ready to face whatever came next. As they prepared to move, Alex allowed himself a brief moment of reflection. He had survived storms, ambushes, and countless dangers, but the bond he shared with Lyra, the trust and collaboration, made him realize something important. Survival was not just about strength. It was about connection, understanding, and using every tool, every advantage, every lesson learned to protect what mattered. The night was quiet now, the stars emerging in the dark sky. Alex and Lyra moved forward, ready for the next stage of the challenge, aware that danger still lurked ahead. But they were no longer just two beings facing impossible odds. They were a team, combining human courage and alien insight, ready to stand against whatever threat dared to come. And as they disappeared into the shadows of the valley, the sense of impending danger was sharp, but so was the feeling of hope, determination, and the undeniable strength of humans in the face of the unknown. The valley lay in silence, broken only by the distant hum of alien engines. Alex and Lyra moved cautiously, every step deliberate, their senses stretched to the limits. The scouts they had defeated earlier had been just a warning. The real force was coming, organized, relentless, and far more dangerous. Alex tightened his grip on his weapon and glanced at Lyra. She was calm, her alien eyes scanning the terrain with precision, but he could see the tension coiled in her muscles. "This way," Lyra said, pointing toward a narrow canyon that cut through the rocky landscape. "It's the only place we can control. They can't overwhelm us here." Alex nodded, trusting her judgment. He had learned over the past day that her instincts were flawless. Humans had resilience and creativity, yes, but Lyra had experience and insight that gave them a crucial edge. Together, they moved into the canyon, carefully setting traps as they went. Rocks were rigged to fall, energy nets hidden along the walls, and makeshift turrets placed in strategic positions. As night fell, the first waves of the main force arrived. Thousands of units, A mix of drones and armored vehicles moved with deadly precision. The valley shimmered with their energy shields and lights. Alex felt the adrenaline surge. This was it, the test of all their preparation, all their strategy, and all their courage. Lyra's voice cut through his thoughts. "Follow my lead. We hit them where they least expect it." The battle began with a sudden strike. Alex triggered a sequence of traps, sending boulders crashing down, smashing vehicles and scattering the first units. Energy nets fired simultaneously, immobilizing several drones. Lyra's alien devices pulsed, sending disruptive signals that scrambled the enemy's sensors. Chaos erupted among the invaders, their formation breaking, giving Alex and Lyra a chance to exploit their advantage. Despite the chaos, Alex remained focused. He moved with precision, anticipating the enemy's moves, predicting their patterns. Humans had an unpredictable element, creativity, improvisation, courage, that machines and even highly advanced aliens often could not counter. Alex used that to full effect, setting improvised ambushes, luring enemies into traps, and using the terrain to his advantage. Hours passed in a blur of action. The battle was relentless, but Alex and Lyra adapted continuously. When one plan failed, they adjusted immediately. When the enemy regrouped, they struck from unexpected angles. Alex felt the thrill of survival, the sharp clarity that came from being fully alive, fully engaged. At one point, a massive alien war machine appeared, its shields glowing bright blue, its weapons capable of destroying anything in its path. Alex froze for a moment, realizing the danger, but Lyra's hand on his shoulder steadied him. "We can do this. Trust me," she said. Together, they devised a risky plan. Using the narrow canyon, Alex lured the machine toward a trap while Lyra manipulated her alien tech to disable its shields temporarily. The plan was precise and dangerous, but it worked. The machine stumbled, its shields flickering, and Alex fired the final shot, disabling it completely. The sight of the massive enemy collapsing made him realize how far they had come. They were surviving against impossible odds. As dawn approached, the remaining forces began to retreat. Their command structure was in disarray, their units scattered and confused. Alex and Lyra stood on a ridge, exhausted but victorious. The valley below was scarred, littered with debris, but they had survived. Their teamwork, human ingenuity, and Lyra's alien skills had turned the tide against a far superior force. Lyra turned to Alex, her expression unreadable for a moment, then softened. "You were incredible," she said. "Your decisions, your courage, it saved us both." Humans truly are remarkable. Alex felt a swell of pride but also humility. "We did it together. Humans survive, yes, but we can't do everything alone." For a moment they stood in silence, watching the retreating enemies. The sky lightened as the first rays of sun painted the valley in gold and red. The storm of danger had passed, at least for now, leaving a sense of quiet triumph and relief. Lyra stepped closer. "I came back through the storm for a reason," she said softly. "Not just to warn you, but to be here when the moment mattered. You showed me why humans are more than just fragile creatures on fragile planets. You have strength, heart, and ingenuity." Alex smiled faintly, feeling a bond that went beyond words. He had always known humans were resilient, but now he had proof that courage, intelligence, and determination could match even the most advanced threats in the galaxy. They moved back to the outpost, inspecting the defenses and salvaging what remained. The battle had left its mark on the landscape, but it had also cemented their partnership. Alex realized that survival was more than skill or strength. It was trust, collaboration, and the willingness to take risks for what mattered most. Over the next few hours, they repaired critical systems, re-established communications, and prepared for any possible counterattack. Alex noticed Lyra watching him carefully, her expression thoughtful. "You have a rare gift," she said quietly. "The ability to see possibilities where others see only danger. That is why you survived the storms before and why you survive today." He shrugged, feeling modest but also honored. "Humans have always adapted. We face what we must and we find a way. That's what we do." Lyra nodded, her glow dimming slightly as she relaxed. "And I am glad to see it firsthand. There are few humans like you." As the day progressed, Alex and Lyra took a moment to rest. The valley was quiet, the storm finally gone, leaving only the aftermath of battle and the promise of a new beginning. They shared a meal, simple and practical, but there was a warmth in the act, a sense of normalcy returning after the chaos. Alex realized that despite the danger, despite the fear and uncertainty, he had learned something profound. Humans were not just survivors, they were problem solvers, innovators and fighters in ways no one could anticipate. And when combined with the abilities and insight of allies like Lyra, their potential was limitless. Night came again, but this time without the threat of immediate attack. Alex and Lyra stood outside the outpost, looking at the stars above. The galaxy stretched endlessly, vast and unknown, but they had faced a threat head-on and survived. Lyra's gaze lingered on Alex. "I will stay with you," she said. "Not because you need me, but because I choose to. You have shown me that humans can stand against impossible odds, and I want to see what comes next together." Alex felt a surge of respect and gratitude. "Then we face it together," he said. "Whatever comes, we survive, we adapt, and we fight. That's what humans do. And now, it's what we do together." As the stars glittered above and the valley lay quiet below, Alex understood something he had always known but now felt more deeply than ever. Humanity's strength was not in weapons or numbers or technology alone. It was in courage, creativity, determination, and the bonds formed in the face of adversity. With Lyra by his side, he felt unstoppable, ready to face any challenge the universe could throw at them. The storm had passed. The valley was theirs for now. And with the dawn of a new day, Alex and Lyra stepped forward, side by side, prepared to face the future, whatever it might hold.